Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and here we are, 1 o'clock Eastern. Time for another episode of Thrive, turning uncertainty into your competitive advantage. I'm super excited. I got Joe Dalton here in the studio with me, and his 10-month-old back there entertaining himself on the love seat.
We wish. Once he's not digging a hole in the background, that's all right.
How you doing today, Joe?
Wonderful, Meredith. Couldn't be happier. This is a long time coming. I think we've scheduled multiple times, but
That's right.
it's great to be on. Great to be
That's
on.
right. Being back in live and in person has definitely thrown a few kinks in my schedule. But I have so much I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to hit the video. We're going to rock and roll and get going. And audience, chime in with your questions as well. Joe's got a lot of information on mindset, systems, processes, and everything that you need to know to acquire more clients. So here we go. Again, Meridith Elliott Powell here with another episode of Thrive, hanging out with my good friend, Joe, client acquisitions specialist. Joe, I always seem to think of you as somebody who really is an expert in the area of a mindset. So for some of our listeners who may not know you, how do you describe Joe Dalton?
Pretty cool guy.
Well, yeah, you are, but now your dog's bored and is leaving.
That's it. Yeah, how do I look? I have spent many years. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started businesses early in my 20s. I've been in sales, and I knew I wanted to get in sales well before. I think when I was about 13, 14, I realized I wanted to get in sales. And what do I try and do? I really try and help people make a living. Help people actually create the idea in their head and turn that into something profitable for themselves.
So what are some of, I love that subject because I think that one of the most interesting things about, or the most challenging things about those of us who start a business is we fall in love with that idea of starting the business and doing the business, but it's all the other stuff that we don't think about. I mean, the fact that we're going to have to manage the business, that we're going to have to run the business, and God help us, we're going to have to sell, right? So, what are some of the challenges in taking it from idea to reality?
Very good question. And actually, 80% of people get this great idea and they create it, and then they run to market with trying to sell it, and then they can't understand why they're not getting business, and then the anxiety kicks in, the stress, they run out of money, the whole idea is the self-worth diminishes and everything. And that's the problem, Meredith. That's the problem, because a lot of people believe, I've got this great idea, I think it's brilliant, and they run with it and it falls flat in their face. Now, I'll be honest, I have been searching and looking and reading and, putting all the tools and all the wisdom and all my energy into finding out the holy grail for the last, 20, 30 years. Why? Because when I had a business, one of my businesses, which was genetic performance, and we had that in America, and we got that even on Good Morning America. So it was a big deal that.
Yeah.
And we got a company in, and this company, top of their class, established, came in, said, look, you need to do A, B, or C. We paid a lot of money, and still the problem wasn't fixed, and the more stress and more anxiety. And I made a decision there and then that I was not going to let other people experience what I experienced. So I went and researched. Now, I've always been in sales before. I've always run businesses. No, I've worked in America. I have a place in San Diego, Washington, D.C., Germany, England. So I've worked all over the world.
Yeah.
But I got it that, okay, what is the one thing that people are missing? And I believe in my heart that I have found that, and I have made a lot of consultants in the service base, so professionals, make them establish who they are and their businesses. If they've turned into authors, they're experts in their business, in their niche, and there is a system in place. And like you, I've got to speak to wonderful people because, as you know, I'm the chairman of a radio station here in
Yeah.
Ireland as well. So I've got to speak to people like Greg Braden. I've got to speak to people like Marshall Goldsmith. I've got to speak to people like Vishen out of Mind Valley, Chris Voss, who we all know is the FBA negotiator. So I've spoke to all these people. I've spoken to hundreds of people all over the world, influencers and normal people just like you and me. And I believe that looking at this and asking people, what do you need? What do you need? That by starting that conversation and people then understanding what they need, that is where the journey begins.
So when you ask people what they need, I'm curious as to, is everybody set up to have a business for themselves? I mean, is it just enough to have an idea? I mean, or is it a certain type of individual? And can you train yourself to be that type of individual?
Yeah, there's two parts. There's one is the entrepreneurial mindset, and then there's the managerial skill set. And what you have is you have entrepreneurs who go out and they're willing to risk everything, literally risk everything. And then what you have is you have the manager's mindset who won't risk everything because they're looking at the wage and looking at the bottom line. And if you can marry the two of them into a person's psyche, then the magic happens.
And
Now,
is that possible to merge the two?
of course it is. It is.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. It's all about self-worth. I've learned and discovered that there's, three elements. You have mindset, you have the processes, you have the systems, or the systems and the processes, and that's the behaviors and the practices. Now, mindset, self-worth is the biggest key that everyone needs to overcome. And that can go back into many different times. And something might have happened to you when you were a child, or something might have happened to you when you were an adult, that it was that shock system that created that doubt inside you. So them combined with your entrepreneurial skill set, you can actually change things. Now, you asked me a question there, can anyone do it? And I say, if running a business was easy, and I've said this to many people before, you'd have no one who would be employed and everybody would be self-employed.
Right.
And the reason that why people don't jump at it is uncertainty. And the fear of uncertainty scares the living daylights out of them.
Yeah, it's funny. We're just programmed to believe that uncertainty is a bad thing and it's a negative. And I find it really interesting that in our psyche, we would rather stay in a job that was not fulfilling to us, that gave us a guarantee that we would get a paycheck, that the job would be there, rather than take a risk and a chance that there might be a better opportunity out there. And I guess the fear is that the flip could happen, right? You could end up worse than where you are.
A system that makes us believe that we need to depend on the system. That's a different day story.
Right. That's right. That's your other show. That's your other show story.
But look, what I've established is that there's 6 elements that every business person needs to go through to make a business great. And the one is identify. And what is identify? Identify your essence, identify your purpose, identify what you're really good at. Now, once you can understand what makes you who you are, what's the wisdom that you hold and the experience that you bring to the table, the second thing then is creating. And that's creating something around what your clients need. So you go down, it's reverse engineering, you go ask people, what do they need? And you develop from identifying your qualities, creating something that is what the market needs and what it will want, so desirable want. Then you develop that into a package. And that's the third element. And the package then is developing everything around that makes it attractive to the people. And the stepping stones, if it's a course, if it's a business, if it's consultancy, the package is everything that you do, the key points that you're doing, the pricing, how you show up. It's all that into the package. Then you get into promoting it. How do you promote it? That's the fourth element. And the promoting is standing up there and shining and telling people what you believe. And everyone else in your business is saying A, you go and say B. Okay. And then you get from there into selling it. And that's the presentation that you have with the people that want to do business with you. And it's the presentation. And then when you get that right, you look at the whole mix because you've got it 100% right. So you no longer need to work on what am I doing? What am I doing? You spend all your time then dealing with your clients and the other half just marketing the hell out of it. And that's how you grow a business.
Okay, so I imagine these 6 steps need to be done in order. Is that correct?
Well, as I said, most people think they've got a great idea and then they build a website, they go and develop something and it falls flat in the face. So is there's a psyche? Yes, it is. And some people are stuck at one part, some people are missing at the other. That's why people buy ClickFunnels or people buy, marketing tools or people go and like you and me, they come to us for sales. And the problem is they never really get it right because they are missing a different part, a different element of the whole process that makes the business successful. Everything is a system, everything is a process, everything is to do with self-worth.
You know, I think so years ago, before I started doing what I do for a living, before I started my own business, I was a banker. And as a banker, I would see businesses all the time that people were so passionate, so excited about their idea. They would go into business for themselves. And very few businesses really made it past 2 years. And then businesses would be challenged again in somewhere between 2 to 5. And we always ended up blaming it on cash flow, that there wasn't enough cash flow through the business. But I always felt it was deeper, deeper than that. Is that, I think one of the first things you have to do is get right in your mind that you're so in love with what you're doing. You want to do it all the time. I mean, years ago, I found this great quote that I used to have on the wall in my office, said that the master in the art of living is one who you can never tell whether they're working or playing because it all looks like the same thing to them. And when people say to me, I want to start my own business, I always say to them, realize you get 6 weeks of vacation a year. When Christmas Day comes, you literally take it off. There's not a day in 365 days a year that I don't work. Now, there's not a day in 365 days a year that I don't play as well. So I'm certainly not complaining about my life, but where does that mindset figure in? Because I know you feel the same way I do. I mean, I never shut it off.
You don't shut it off because you enjoy it. We don't
Yeah.
shut it off because we have found our purpose. It's like I scream out to people saying 95% of the sales industry sucks. I don't know if I can use that word on your
Yeah.
show, but
Yes,
I
you
have.
can.
Okay. So it sucks. And the reason it does, because everyone in it is mismanaged and misled. And everyone's trying to jam a square peg into a round hole and fix something. And if you look at that just in that industry, look at it in most industries, that people are kind of figure out cash flow, the idea, because they're trying to run and they have anxiety, and the companies that fail, they do have anxiety and the people do have stress. But you need to step back and be able to say, I reset today, hit that button, I reset today, and make sure that you ask yourself, if you're in that situation, what can I do today to make things better? I used an analogy with someone the other day, and I said to them, in business, when you have stress or anxiety and it's getting at you, do you ever light a newspaper and then you blow it out and it cinders away? It sort of creeps along, the red fire creeps along the paper, and then eventually the whole paper's gone.
Yeah.
That's what anxiety and stress is in business, that you see it and it creeps up and it takes over everything, slowly takes over. And you need to nip that in the bud and stop and say, I am worth it. I believe in myself. I am doing the right thing. I know that if I'm doing something and it's wrong, I need to change it and make a decision and make that decision, because every decision I make helps me move forward. If I get the decision wrong, it's okay. I make a new decision, but you keep on moving forward. And the biggest thing that you need to have is self-worth, period.
All right. So then how do we do the work to get the self-worth? Because I imagine there's very few people listening us today, probably none, that don't have that nagging voice in their head. And as you said, far too often it's buried so deep in your past that you don't even associate it. I mean, years ago, I took a great leadership course that really taught us that that piece that's gnawing at you, that is making you not feel good enough, is actually going to get you to a certain point. It's going to drive success to a certain level. And then it's going to be the very thing that becomes your obstacle from reaching peak performance.
Yes. And here it is. Drum roll today.
Okay, drum roll.
You go to the gym. And you know, when we all do go to the gym or people run marathons, they hit that wall.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, okay, and you need to get over that wall. And once you get over that wall, everything happens and you move on to finish the marathon, complete your set work. It's the same thing in business. In business, people hit the wall. Their mind goes, oh, you can't do it. Come back. Oh, look, just have a break. Do this. You get exhausted, tired, because your mind is there to protect you. Your mind is going, I need to protect you. And it only knows how it protects you. So it pulls you back off that wall, makes you feel a bit sad, makes you kind of go, okay, I need to kind of think about this. And it brings you back to that safe place. And then you run for that wall again. It hits you and pull you down. Now, we have three bodies. We have a mind, we have a physical, okay, and we have an emotional. And what it happens is that those thoughts that come into our heads we need to observe them. And what you need to do is you need to take that thought and pull it out of your head and say, put it up here in the corner. Okay, trying to get that with the camera. Put that up in the corner and sit it up there and go, okay, I'm going to observe this thought that I'm having. And you look at it through your physical body, your mind body, and your emotional body, and look at it, forgive it, talk to it, and eventually you will see that that thought is only just a thought in your head, and it has no power over you. And what you were doing by releasing it from the three bodies, from experiencing outside, it actually then loses its power, and you then replace it with, I can see this. It's not real. It's only an emotion, a thought. It has no power over me. Let me now change that story. And if you do that enough and practice it enough, things then will change for you. I am blessed. I don't get anxiety anymore. I don't get depressed. I don't worry. I have occasional doubts, but when I do, if it does ever happen, which happened to me a couple of weeks ago for about 20 minutes in the morning when I woke up for some reason, and I did that exercise and it's gone. And by even doing that and practicing that, because our mind and our body is like a muscle, our consciousness is like a muscle. And the more you practice, the better you get at it.
I couldn't agree with you more. You know, years ago, I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and it can be sort of thought of as a woo-woo capital probably of the world. But I went to this great guru teacher who taught me. She said, you know, thoughts are like the ocean. They kind of, if you think of them drifting in through your feet, they will eventually just drift out of your head. But if you fight them, like if I have self-doubt and I beat that thought up, I'll get caught in it like a riptide and it will pull me down and take me under. But like you said, if I just observe it and say, well, that's interesting. I mean, I've accomplished a lot in my life. Why do I think I can't accomplish this? And is there any validity to that? Is there any truth, you know, to that? I love what we're talking about, because I think that so often people in your position who do what you do for a living skip this piece of it. And you cannot help somebody. All the systems and the processes in the world will not fix a doubting mind. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that's why I start the whole process with people is identify your purpose, your why, even if you've lost the why you're doing it, what makes you authentic, all those elements that actually need to be fired back into your head, reminded you of of who you are, remind you of the person that you can be, and then go, right, have we got that spark? Are we ready? Now let's go and make things brilliant. Let's make things amazing for you again.
How is it important? How important is it to have support in this type of, effort? If I'm having a lot of, doubts that I can be successful, or I've had a particularly bad week, I certainly can go through the process that you just explained. But is it more helpful to have somebody to talk with, to engage with, to support you in that? Is that something that's needed?
You know, as they say, if you want to get to know me, come walk with me.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing, that if someone has an idea, or if someone has, they want to hash something out, it's always great to have someone there that you can talk to. Not a family member,
Yeah.
because you have a judgment there. Someone that is outside of your realm, that you have is a confidant, that actually you can share openly and honestly with them, and they can give you the best advice of what they know, to help you. Now, here's the thing as well. Everything that I talk to about people from my consultancy point of view, and my trusted advisor, a mentor, a coach, with so many wonderful words, I talk because of wisdom and experience and knowledge. So I haven't suddenly picked up a book and gone, I'm going to do this and do this. I've had, I'm in my 50s, and,
Mhm.
I've had many years, like you, of wisdom, knowledge, and experience. So anybody, when you're listening, when anyone comes to anybody, the best thing you can do is shush, listen to what that person has to say, because sometimes that's all they need to help them get over the hump, to express it through their voice, to make it go away.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's something about saying things out loud, right? That really just releases them.
Yeah, like singing.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I can't tell you how many times I don't really suffer from anxiety anymore either. I used to definitely earlier in my life, but that is something I think that years of experience and wisdom give you, and surviving some tough knocks. Realize you will get up tomorrow, and and things will move forward. There's something to be said for that. I heard a great piece of advice a while ago that said, don't take any advice from anybody whose life or business you don't respect. So I just sort of wonder your thoughts on that.
Take advice from anybody. It's what you do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I
Sometimes,
mean, sometimes the best advice could be not to follow it, right?
yeah, sometimes you get the best advice from someone in the supermarket. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
You
know,
never know
oh,
where it's
you
going to
never
come
know
from.
where it comes from. If there's that set an intention, and sometimes, the world is a strange place, and sometimes you might get a drop from somebody that you weren't expected, that goes, I was looking for that answer, and
Yeah.
you've answered it for me. But that's, look, the one thing about business, and the one thing about everybody who's trying to thrive and survive, there's elements in it. You know, it's persistence as well. And you have to go
Yeah.
and never give up. I keep saying to people, it's simple, or it's easy, or it's simple, but it's not easy.
It's
It's
so
simple.
true.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy. The cards are on the table. All you need to do is be able to put them in the right place and drive that business forward. So, and do it because you love it. Don't
Hmm.
do it if I've learned as well that if you're doing something just for the money, forget about it.
Yeah.
But if you are doing something to help your clients get over the line, or for them to be great, then it's a whole different fulfillment then as well.
Yeah, I would say that even the most successful people we know, would agree with that. That it isn't the money that drove them to become the billionaire. It was like those things will definitely follow. Well, Joe, it's hard to believe we're coming to the end of this show. There's two questions I always like to close with, and you can answer them in any order you want to. How do people find out more about you, find out about your 6 steps, find out about, discovering their self-worth? And then what is your best piece of advice for anybody out there who is struggling right now with uncertainty, who owns a business and they need to move forward, they need to get unstuck? What would be your greatest piece of advice for them?
My best piece of advice, and the best advice I got in my 20s from a mentor or someone I was working to, it was actually when I was 18, 19, believe it or not. If you like people, they like you. And if they like you, they buy off you. And basically now what that boils into in the 21st century is trust. That's what it is. And if someone out there has a business and they've got a great idea and they want to move it forward and they're unsure, stop, look, hit restart and go, what can I do today to make things better? And if you are really suffering, reach out to people. Everybody loves to help, but everybody is frightened to ask.
Yeah.
Go ask.
Yeah. Which is, one of the best ways to build relationship and connection with people is to ask them to help you, right?
Yeah, look, we're human.
Mhm.
We're communicators. We love, we have a gift which is speech. Use it, and one day when you are back in action, you'll help someone. That's really it,
Absolutely.
and if people want to reach out to me, they can catch me. It's quite easy. joedalton.ie. There's, and then I have 2 different podcasts. I have a radio show. I, we're going to be rolling out a book at the end of the summer.
Great.
Yeah, they were rolling out a book at him. Where the book it's done. I haven't got a title yet because I'm not sure. But the book is done. We just rewording it, or not It's going to its second edit. At the moment.
All right, good. Then you're getting close. Well, I want you to come back on when it's time to focus on the book and promote on the book, because I would love to talk about what you cover there. But thank you so much for joining us, Joe, today. I mean, just another incredible conversation about the systems, the processes, the mindset you need to turn all of this uncertainty into your greatest competitive advantage. We will see you all here next week, 1:00 Eastern, with another guest, another set of strategies, and everything that you need to know to put you in the driver's seat and 100% in control of the changes coming. We'll see you next week.